Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be doing the hafting on this knife blade we worked on the other day. So a little disclaimer, this notch, I made it with modern tools. It's 100 degrees outside right now and I'm limited on time. I don't have time to sit there and whittle on that with a flint flake for about the next 6 hours. If that's something y'all want to see, we'll talk about doing a video about it. This is a piece of elk antler, pitch glue, the blade from the other video. I had to, if y'all remember, if y'all watched the other video, there was like a hinge here. I had to go back and run a flake in there so it looks a little different. It wouldn't fit. It was really hard to get it to fit in the notch, but after I kind of borderline fluted it, everything looks a little better. So we'll see. Still didn't get that one off of there, but I'm just going to leave it. My AC unit is running over there and I hope it's not cutting into the video too much, but we're going to go ahead. We'll also be using Titebond 3 over our rawhide wrappings because it's waterproof and hide glue isn't. And I'm not building a fire today, so we're going to use a blowtorch. So first things you want to do is go ahead and get your blowtorch started, or if you're using a fire, get your fire started. You don't need a ton of heat for this. This glue melts at a fairly low temperature, so you want to heat up your hafting area first. Go ahead and preheat it. You don't want to get it too hot. Just above room temperature will be fine. If you're burning stuff, you're doing something wrong. And you can preheat your point a little bit, just a little bit. Be careful preheating flint. Then get your glue stick together. Get it heated up. You don't, even when you're dealing with pine pitch, you don't want to get it too hot. You don't want it to be catching on fire like that. And then go ahead and get it in your notch. And I like to really lay it on there thick. I like mine to have quite a bit of glue in them. Usually it's hard to get a perfectly fitted notch. I didn't put enough charcoal in this glue. It's not fragile, but it just runs everywhere. If y'all want a video on how to do pine pitch glue, we can talk about that too. I'm not super great at it. This glue is just a little inferior. If I was using something for my own stuff, I'd probably use 2-part epoxy. But in the sake of being semi-authentic, we'll use the pine pitch. So you don't want to go crazy far up your notch. You just want to put it where you need it. Yeah, and that's probably plenty on the point. And then we put a bunch in the hafting. So pretty much done with our glue stick in case, unless we need to fill up some more spots. So what I like to do is go ahead and reheat my glue, get it good and soft, get it ready, and then set my point. And then glue takes a minute to cool, so you've got quite a bit of wiggle room here to move stuff around and get it set up how you like it. This particular handle has a little bit of curvature to it, but we're kind of going to just let it do its thing. Then you can hold it there for a little bit while your glue kind of sets up and hardens. Shouldn't take but just a second. And then I like to lick my finger and go around and smooth out. You don't have to lick your finger. You can just dip it in some water. You want to make sure everything's straight and in line. And then I like to make sure that's what happens when you don't lick your finger. I like to make sure that glue is packed all around in there. And again, you want to try to keep it from moving on you. This is actually pretty hot right now. That blowtorch, it does a good job, but it gets things a touch too hot. So still got a little bit of time to work on alignment and do a little bit of wiggling and moving around. So while this sets up all the way, I'll just pause it. We'll just let it sit here for a few more minutes. It's still quite warm to the touch. And then we'll come back and we'll do our rawhide wrappings. So everything's cooled off. I've cleaned it up. Got my rawhide here, and it's been soaking for a while. What you want to do is you want to stretch it. You see how that stretched out like that? You can stretch this stuff when it's wet. So I've just had it soak in, you know, room temperature water for 30 minutes or so here. And then you want to start your wrapping. I like to start up top. You want to make sure the edges of your point at your base where you're going to wrap are fairly dull. I like to start right above, right below where the hafting stops. I like to be able to see the tip of my hafting. And then just, you want it to overlap. And you may have to use more than one piece for this. And this is white-tailed deer rawhide from this previous hunting season. This is also a white-tailed deer hide from this previous hunting season. So I don't do anything with that tail. I just wrap over it on my next one. This stuff dries, so you get your next piece and you stretch it too. This stuff dries so good and so tight, you don't really have to worry about tying it except on your last one. So now I'll just wrap over that and the one that I just laid down and just continue down the knife. This one looks like it's going to take about 2, which is totally fine. I like to add a couple more right there on the corners, kind of smooth up that transition. And then the whole time I'm doing this, I'm keeping constant tension on the hide and stretching it more and more. You need to leave enough to be able to get back around and tuck it. So then all I do is come around, and I think this is like a 1/2 hitch. And then when it dries, which usually 24 hours in the humidity we have here, it's usually hard and dry. And then when everything's done, you can come back and clean up your little glue smudges on the blade. You can usually just pick them off. And that's how you have to flint blade. Oh, when you're done with your wrappings, come back while they're still wet, and basically you're applying they're going to hold themselves in place. This glue is a waterproofing feature pretty much. So what you're doing is, if you can get it to come out, this bottle's about done. I've had it a while. I use this for all my sinew and rawhide wrappings. So just apply a little bit and rub it into that rawhide. And what that's going to do is, it'll keep, if you ever get this wet, if you're cleaning an animal with it or something, and you know you get it wet with blood, it'll keep these wrappings from softening, which really, the wrappings are superficial themselves, the lashings, whatever you want to call it. And this stuff dries clear, so you won't see any of that once it's dry. The most important parts and aspects of it are the pitch glue and the hafting that holds the blade there. The wrappings are extra and the glue is extra. The Titebond is just waterproofing basically. And you can do the same thing with hide glue, but hide glue is not waterproof. So there we go, one flint knife. And We can do a little demonstration real quick. So you use these like a saw. You don't use them like a regular knife. So like say we wanted to cut off the end of this piece of river cane, which is definitely something you'll find yourself doing with a flint knife. They don't cut perfect, but they're very sharp as a sawing motion. Can't really slice with them. And I'm being really gentle here. So you cut a groove all the way around something, snap it off, sand it down, and you're good. And they work good for cutting soft materials like flesh and stuff. Depending on how well of a job you do pressure flaking your edge depends on how sharp they are. This one's not bad. It could be a touch sharper, but it would work great for like meats and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it. It's fairly simple. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Leave me a like or a comment. Let me know how I did. If y'all like this kind of stuff, subscribe. We'll do some more. I just wanted to do a quick video on it. If y'all want to do a video on how to cut a groove in a piece of antler with a stone flake, I can do that. I just, you know, this is like a mix of primitive and modern tools right here. I think people get hung up on being primitive and, you know, they've got 10 or 12 hours a day they can work on stuff because they don't really have a full-time job, and it can be overwhelming to someone who's just beginning. But I'd say to everybody that's just starting out there, do what you're comfortable doing. If you want to work stone tools with abo, go for it. But if you want to use copper, don't feel lesser because you're using copper. If you want to use a bandsaw to cut up your antler, go for it. I think that we all do this for enjoyment. It's not a competition about, you know, who can do stuff the hardest way. It can be if you want to make it that way, but I think to each their own and do what makes you happy. So what makes me happy is not sawing on a piece of antler for 5 or 6 hours in 100-degree weather. So I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and like, comment, subscribe, share. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for y'all's support.